my heart and it made me so strong. I'm on my way, I'm back to the start. I've been waiting so long. I'm on my way, I opened my heart and it made me so strong. I'm on my way now, I'm on my way, I'm on my way now, I'm on my way, oh yeah. Good morning, everybody, and welcome again to another painting stream. How's it going today? Man, I had a good weekend. Went to Quincy Pride Festival here in Quincy where I live, and it was spectacular, and there were so many people, and they were all having such a wonderful time. Oh, it was nice. And got to hang out with our good friend Insidious Pie. It was good to see you, Pie. Now that we're all fully vaxxed, we can stay in the same place at the same time without masks. It was spectacular. How about this angle? I don't know. I guess you don't really need to see the top of my head, right? Anyways, good morning, good morning. Hello, Lobster of Revenge. Glad you could join me. Back to the Future? Or no, Back to the Furies. Yes, Back to the Furies. So I want to try, over this week and next week, to finish the last of the minis from the Warcry set that I've been painting for the last couple of months. And there are 6 minis left to go. I've got 3 of these cute little Furies to paint. And then I've got 3 of these little Raptorix. So we're going to do the Furies this week and the Raptorix next week, because the Raptorix were probably my favorite thing that I've painted since I started this stream. And what's in the cup? Coffee. I desperately need coffee. It's still fairly early. 10 in the morning. May not feel early, but it's early. And welcome, Clown Gown. I'm glad you could come on in and hang out. So anyhow, should I show off one of the old Furies? I'm going to show off one of the Furies that we've already painted. Let's go over to Zoom Cam. Here we are on Zoom Cam. And this is what the Furies ended up looking like in a completed state. Obviously, I spent a lot of time doing details on the wings. They came out kind of cool. It was a challenge for me to work on these folks because I'm not used to painting in dark colors. Usually I work in slightly lighter colors so that a wash does a lot of the work for me. That's not something I was able to do with these. A wash isn't really going to do as much when your color is so dark to start with. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to paint the other 3 the same way. Primarily because I want these to look cohesive as a single unit. I feel like I have learned some things in the painting of these fellows, but I'm not going to change anything about how I'm doing them. So we're going to start out with the dark purple. And honestly, I can't remember which purple I used. Did I use blue violet? I feel like this is a lighter purple. I think I must have used this. The hexed lichen. I'm pretty sure I used this from my WizKids collection of paints. So we're going to use that. One thing that is going to be different this time is that I'm going to be using my new brushes. So I got myself some of the new synthetic Citadel brushes. That's kind of washed out so you can't really see it. But this is the new synthetic Citadel small layer brush. And you can see it's got white bristles, so it will be easier for me to see the paint that's on the brush as I work. So my goal for today is to do base coat on the Furies themselves, which means primarily purple, and we're using deck tan for fangs, horns, and things like that. The tip of the tail, teeth. So this is going to be probably pretty simple, which leaves me more time for chatting with you folks. So, how was everybody else this weekend? Lobster, what movie did you end up watching last night? I was too tired to watch a movie last night, so I didn't end up watching a movie. But I know you were planning to watch something. This is a gorgeous paint. It's got almost an iridescence to it when it's coming out of the bottle, and maybe I need to do a better job of mixing it. You did watch Lady in the Van. So, compare and contrast then, Lady in the Van and Nomadland. Are they similar? They seemed similar in concept, but maybe that's just because I know nothing about Lady in the Van. Nomadland was spectacular, but hit a little close to home in some ways. All right. I'm trying to remember. So, the interesting thing about these figures is that the 3 I'm working on today are essentially identical to the 3 that I've already done. So the only real difference is going to come in anything that I do to the wings, because I've been sort of doing custom designs on the wings, and in anything that I do on the bases. Brush is very interesting. Maybe it's just that I'm used to my fairly worn out brush that I've been using for ages. This brush has a much more defined tip. Could also just be that it's stiff because it's fairly new. I do like Maggie Smith. I'll probably watch Lady in the Van at some point. I feel like I need more low impact, like action movie sort of stuff in my life these days. Or comedies and animated films. Can you guys see what this brush is doing when I'm painting with it? It's almost bowing as I push. Look at that. Look at how the brush is behaving. Not used to this brush at all. We all know that I have my favorite brush that I use for 90% of everything that I paint. And I was hoping that this would act as a good substitute for that brush, because that brush is beginning to die. That's my Army Painter small layer brush. But it's going to take some getting used to use this brush, I think. definitely giving me precision and accuracy, which is quite nice. But it just has a very different sensation to it. Very peculiar. I'm sure I'll get used to it, and also it'll get broken in over time. Yeah, this brush is fascinating. Almost as if it's not individual bristles. I wonder if this particular brush is defective and it's melted at the tip. Look at that. How weird. Yeah, I think it actually is melted at the tip here. Needs a little work. Weird. I don't think it's meant to be that way. The other two brushes that I got didn't behave in this peculiar manner. Of course, one of them was a dry brush, so would be used differently anyhow. But I was using sort of the layer brush for detail work, or for bases last week, and it didn't behave this way. I think I'm going to switch back. I think I'm going to switch back to my regular medium layer brush. I may just need to take a pair of scissors to the tip of this brush, because it's not great. Not for what I like to be able to do. Look at that. Can you see that? The bristles are all stuck together at the end. It's weird. Maybe just a pair of scissors could solve that problem. But in the meantime, I'm going to put this brush away. Go back to my much abused Citadel small layer brush. That's the stuff. So, frequent viewer and friend of the stream, Novocaine for the Souls, has posted in the Discord instructions for making a wet palette. And I've pondered doing that. So the notion behind a wet palette is your paint is actually in a sort of suspension. You don't have, like, what I'm using as a palette here is a piece of wax paper. It's the back of a mailing label. And its key advantage as a palette is that the paint doesn't really stick to it. Paint beads up on it, and I feel like that gives me good control in when I'm sort of gathering paint onto the brush. But I believe, if I'm correct about how a wet palette works, and I could be wrong about this, but this is my impression, is that a wet palette is intended to, basically you're using like a paper towel or something like that, that the paint is in or on top of, and that paper towel is slightly damp, so the paint is sort of dampened from below, and I think the theory is that your paint doesn't dry as quickly because you're using a wet palette. It's maybe something that I'll experiment with at some point. I've talked before about the fact that I don't water my paints down much. I tend to use them direct from the eyedropper. It's one of the reasons that I prefer the Vallejo paints to the Citadels, is the Citadels tend to be thicker, heavier paints, certainly the Citadel base paints, because I think they're intended to be watered down. You're not meant to be painting with the raw paint, so to speak. But I tend to go for thicker paint rather than thinner, waterier paint, because it gives me more accuracy and precision. And that's something that I care about a lot when I'm painting. It's part of why I'm such a slow painter. I could definitely go a lot faster if I cared less about accuracy and precision, which I probably, I don't have to obsess about it, because a lot of the time you're painting over areas. Like, okay, for example, this little claw here on the end of this wing, I'm going to carefully paint around it as I go. And then later today, after this purple has dried somewhat, I'm going to paint the claw white. Now, it might be faster if I didn't care and just painted over that claw, and then, I'm going to come back and paint it white anyways. As long as the white can go over the purple without the purple showing through, you don't really have to worry about being as painstaking. It's not my way, but it would perhaps be faster. And I don't know that it would really have an impact on the finished product. But, I don't know. Part of the enjoyment I get from painting is in getting those sharp edges and precise details, which I then completely mess up when I'm doing highlights and washes and stuff, so I don't know. One of the painting projects that I have sort of on my back burner that I'm planning to come in and do at some point is attempting to do cell shading in a paint job, which is to say, make the paint appear the way it would be if the figure were drawn and colored on paper in a sort of cartoonish, comic booky way. And I'm thinking that's going to be an occasion where a rather extreme amount of precision will actually be a benefit. We'll see. Like I said, that's one of my weirder art project ideas that I have. Look at the coverage this gorgeous paint has. It looks so good. So folks, I don't know about where you are, but where I am, it is getting brutally hot today. Like uncomfortably warm. I have not put the air conditioners in the windows of the apartment yet. Our air conditioning units are still down in the basement. And even when I have air conditioners in the apartment, because this room is the cat-free room and is isolated from the rest of the apartment, we're not planning to put an air conditioner in this room. So, not a fan of this warm weather. And it's making my painting room kind of muggy. It's also super humid right now. So it's warm and humid, which makes it feel warmer because the way that your body regulates heat, it relies on evaporation, and there's less evaporation when it's so moist out. Hopefully, the fact that it's so warm and humid is not going to negatively impact the way that the paint behaves on the models. I could see the humidity having an impact. This thing that the paints will be more viscous and less likely to dry properly. I think you can see, folks, why I decided to spend so much time on the wings of the first 3 Furies that I painted. It's just, there's this vast, open, empty area here. And it invites you to do something with it. Just want it to have some character. So you'll recall on my other Furies that I painted the spine a sort of metallic pink. We'll be doing that again. Basically, my hope is that having already painted basically these identical figures, this week will be pretty fast because I know what I'm trying to do. I have my paint scheme established already. So we'll see how that works out in the long run. Coffee time. Purple. I do remember some of these difficult to reach angles on the back sides and the rear sides. Hope I can get these 3 figures completely done this week. And then next week I can work on the Raptorix. I'm still so super proud of how the Raptorix came out, the first 3 Raptorix. Hopefully I can replicate that because it was pretty spectacular. And not that difficult. Right? I feel like these Furies were a lot more fiddly and technical than the Raptorix were. I thought somebody was chatting. It's just spam. Give me a sec, chat. There. If it wasn't Monday and Amanda wasn't at work right now, I could have had her report that spam. I think banning is probably sufficient for the short term. Hopefully today I can finish all the base coating on that stuff. Bit of metallic pink for the spine. And Wednesday and Thursday we'll work on custom bases. Do some more skulls and skeleton bits probably, because that was a lot of fun. Fuzzies seem to be suspended in the primer. Not ideal. So chat, I feel like I should talk about the fact that I am so very close to hitting affiliate. The thing I'm most looking forward to once I reach that affiliate mark, which really just now needs, we just need to hit the 3 average viewers per stream, which we're doing pretty well. Last time I looked, it was like 2.6 average viewers per stream. So we'll probably reach that 3 as long as folks tune in and just hang out and lurk. Finishing Fridays always help, because Friday viewership tends to be between 4 and 6 viewers, which helps the average, obviously. Anyhow, once I hit affiliate, the thing I'm most looking forward to is getting my first emotes set up. I have an emote planned. I'm actually talking with a couple of artists to try and get some custom art for the stream. So, I mean, obviously, this is an art stream. I am spending a lot of time painting, but I am not adept at drawing. It's something I have done in the past, just sort of recreationally. But it's not something I've practiced enough to feel like when I'm drawing something, it comes out the way I envision it, which is sort of the benchmark that I have for art, is, for my art anyhow, is when I have an idea in my head and I try to paint it or draw it or whatever, does it come out looking the way the vision in my head looked? Yes, no. If yes, successful art. If no, well, I guess successful lesson. But I want this stream to have a sort of air of professional look to it, I guess. So I'd rather not spend a lot of time experimenting myself and just pay somebody to do some good art. So that's one of the back burner things that I've got going on. Trying to get that initial emote and some other stream related art stuff squared away. Maybe someday I'll feel more comfortable
actually drawing myself. Like, instead of just painting minis, we'll do some painting of other things, watercolors or whatnot. But for right now, for the purposes of this stream, the presentation that I want to give to my viewers is something more professional than what I am capable of. Alright, advice for anybody out there who is painting or building this particular set. You should probably paint these guys before gluing them to the bases, because this is awkward. Okay, I need to finish under the wing. There's a little bit under the tail here. Almost done with the purple on Fury number 1. I should try to get myself iced coffee tomorrow for this stream. It means going out or making myself iced coffee ahead of time. But the thought of drinking my lukewarm coffee there is currently fairly unappealing. I need coffee, and I need hydration, but it is so warm in here. Okay, one more panel on the wing here, and I think that's everything for the purple on this fella. Progress. Okay. There. He's looking very purple. Cool. 2 more to go. The other 2 don't have as many really difficult to reach areas underneath them, so maybe this will go better. I don't know. I need more paint soon. guys have such big, prominent eyes. If I was going to be practicing doing eyeballs and stuff, I'd want to be doing it on something like this. I'm a little nervous about today at the store. Today we are doing a Fallout Wasteland Warfare event. And it's meant to be part of a recurring thing that every first Monday of the month going forward, folks will bring in their Fallout Wasteland Warfare minis and play some games. And the problem being, although we have several people who have picked up a lot of Fallout Wasteland Warfare stuff, A, I don't know how many of them have gotten any of them painted, and B, I don't know how many of them have any idea how to play. And I haven't played any Fallout Wasteland Warfare in more than a year. I'm a little nervous. I've sort of pitched it as rediscover how to play. We'll go through the rules together and try and remember how this thing works. I think there's going to be a little bit of that as we slowly come out of pandemic times, is people who haven't had a chance to practice their hobbies in more than a year sort of relearning. We'll see how that goes. I felt bad for Fallout Wasteland Warfare because it had just arrived. Well, it had been out for a few months before the pandemic shut everything down. But we had had a couple of events in the store with people coming in and playing around with it and showing off their minis and whatnot. And then everything shut down, and obviously nobody was able to play any in the store for a long, long time. And now we're slowly getting back to having events and stuff in the store. And because the game was still relatively new back when everything closed, people don't necessarily remember how to play very well. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are in the same boat as I am, where it's like, yeah, I have the Fallout Wasteland Warfare figures. Darned if I know how they work. We'll see what happens. Probably today will be read the instruction booklet with me. Bring my copy into the store and sort of brush up. Maybe it'll come back to me. Maybe I'll start reading it. It'll be like, oh yeah, I remember all this. But there were parts of Fallout Wasteland Warfare that I felt were a little unintuitive, and it's just different enough from other mini games I've played in the past that I think a refresher is going to be necessary. I realize I could probably find some YouTube videos on how to play, but I don't like watching a video to learn to play something rather than just playing it. I prefer to teach myself to play by reading the instructions and then actually messing around with the game. Who knows? Maybe nobody will even show up. That's the worst possible scenario. Is that everybody feels the same way I do, and they're like, nah, it's been too long. I don't know how to play, so I'm not gonna come in and burden the store with me, with my needing a refresher. Ah. Got his arms mostly done. I have a lot of Fallout Wasteland Warfare minis that I have not even assembled yet. Kind of the plan prior to the pandemic was that Amanda was going to be doing a lot of the Fallout painting because she loves Fallout. Fallout is so Amanda's jam. Like Fallout 3 and 4 are probably her favorite video games, or favorite mainstream video games, I guess. Certainly they're the games that she has played the most. And she loves painting, as we all know. So she had kind of said she wanted to do the painting of the minis. I was like, yeah, absolutely. I know you enjoy it, and I know you're a Fallout fan. But then, of course, pandemic. And one of the awkward things is that she is used to painting in the store up in the loft. You may recall that Amanda used to do occasional painting streams from the loft on our Battleground Live channel. And she's wanted to get back to that, but she's not been super comfortable with being in the store during the pandemic. So she really hasn't done any painting in like a year. And that's awful. She's done a little work on Doctor Who figures, I guess. But when you've got a backlog of probably, I don't know, 30 or 40 Fallout Wasteland Warfare figures, that's kind of intimidating to have looming at some vague point in the future. And I think that sort of also dissuaded her. She's like, it's been so long since I've painted, and I've got so much to do. So what I'm getting at is we have a lot of unpainted Fallout Wasteland Warfare figures. And Amanda doesn't feel super comfortable with the idea of painting here in the painting nook, partially because I've got it covered in stuff I'm working on, and all my paints are out and stuff. So I need to clean this space up so that Amanda can use it. But really, the loft at Battleground was her traditional painting place. And until she feels comfortable coming back to hang out in the loft, I don't feel that she's going to get any painting done. It's one of the things that this whole pandemic has left a lot of people with, is there's just sort of a weight of uncompleted projects. And I feel it as well. I've got all sorts of RPG projects that I've been working on that are not done. Trying to get some folks together to play Alien RPG. I'm making plans, as Fearsong knows, to do something set in Ravenloft using D&D 5th edition. But between work and my stream and playing video games and generally being stressed about the state of the world, I haven't got as much done as I would like. And I just have so many incomplete projects that you get a sort of sense of paralysis. It's like, I've got so much that I want to do that I can't do anything. Part of why this particular painting stream has been so nice for me, because all these painting projects that I have, like these Warcry minis, and I've got a whole bunch of my Tau figures that I want to work on, and various art projects that I have sort of planned. Like I was talking about that attempt I want to do cell shading, and I want to practice with NMM, non-metallic metal, and I was talking about trying to teach myself to paint transparency, like how to make something appear to be transparent and have light pass through it. All these fun painting effects and illusions that I want to work on. And if I didn't have this stream, I certainly wouldn't have the motivation to actually work on any of these things. I always say that. Say it when I'm finishing up my stream, is that it is thanks to you folks, the viewers, hanging out with me, that I have the motivation to actually get any of this done. Okay, let's see, where are we with this fellow? Done with legs and arms, and his face, and his tail. So that leaves his back and his wings. Making progress. And then we'll start doing some of the areas that we're doing in white. The horns and the teeth and fangs and talons and all that sort of stuff. the things I've been contemplating for the stream is adding more diversity to the music that I play. I love Miracle of Sound, and I like providing, introducing people to his music. But I'm beginning to think, after a couple of months of playing Miracle of Sound as the background for the stream, perhaps I should diversify a little. Get some other music I can play without getting copyright strikes. Gav will continue to be my primary go-to, probably. But I feel like if I'm going to be doing this for a couple hours a day, like 20 days a month or more, maybe I should have more music in the stream repertoire. The worst possible thing would be for people to get sick of Miracle of Sound and not want to listen to him, because he's awesome. This man's armpit just there. I guess I had forgotten, after a couple of weeks, just how much surface area there was on these guys. So they've got, these wings are vast. It's taking me slightly longer than I anticipated to get all of this base coating done. Probably fine. Like, if I don't get much time to do fangs and talons today because I'm doing 3 complete base coats in purple, well, at least I've made significant progress, and the fangs and talons won't take up that much time. It's tomorrow. I want to start doing wing detail, because that was definitely the most labor-intensive part of painting these the first time around. Trying not to leave too many bubbles and streaks in the paint, especially on the wings here, because there's so much detail I'm going to want to do on these wings. I want a fairly smooth base coat to work off of. problem I often run into when I am working with watered down paint. Not only does it lose precision because it runs a bit, and it's not as easy to target where it's going on the model, but it's easier to inadvertently beat air into it, resulting in bubbles, which are definitely not a look that I want. Okay. Progress. The undersides of his wings. So a little after 11 o'clock now. I'm reasonably confident I can get at least all the purple done on all three of these Furies today. These wings were a pain to paint because I was trying to do a lot of different things with them and trying all sorts of different techniques and stuff. But they are pretty cool looking, I will say. They're a cool sculpt. Even if they are huge, open, empty areas and a lot of spaces. Even if that meant that I spent a lot of time trying to spice them up with extra detail and stuff. They still are well made and very cool just by their lonesome. Like, that looks pretty good, right? It's bland, because it's all just one color. But they're a cool shape. Okay. So almost done with all the purple on figure number 2. that's, I believe, the last of the purple on him. There's this little bit right here. It's two figures, mostly base coated. Take a sip of my coffee. Move on to figure number 3 with 45 minutes left. Okay. I think that's doable. All the sugar down in the dregs at the bottom of my coffee cup. Delicious. Okay. Fury number 3. Remember to either get myself a replacement for or try to repair my other brush. Yeah. GW synthetic brush that was behaving so oddly earlier. As much as I love this brush, my old friend, the Citadel Small Layer brush, it has done a lot of work, and it's not going to last forever. I could always get another Citadel Small Layer brush, but I thought I'd try out the synthetics. And the other two that I got worked pretty well. It's just this particular one that I tried this morning was behaving in a very peculiar manner. Kind of remember this guy, this particular sculpt on this particular figure doesn't have these sort of spines on the back of one of his arms. when the new season of The Witcher comes out on Netflix, Gav will do another Witcher song. I mean, really, his Witcher songs were not based on the Netflix show. They're based on the games, PC games. Fuzzy in there. I think I got it. Okay. I feel like this brush is degrading in real time as I'm painting. I just need to do a better job of tipping it, I think. But it's splaying a bit as I'm painting today. With the result that there's some air getting into the paint, some bubbles that I'm not a fan of. And it's losing some accuracy. It's painting in a slightly wider, broader way. So this portion of painting, this base coating and getting the initial sort of color blocking done on a figure, I always feel like this is less interesting. Certainly less interesting than when I get to finishing Friday and I'm doing highlights and dry brushing and all those cool things that really make the model pop. But you have to do the monotonous work before you can get to the cool work. So thanks for your patience, chat, while I do all of this sort of repetitive, monotonous stuff. I appreciate you being here. it's very soothing. I'm pleased to hear it. Certainly, one of my goals with this stream is to provide a relaxing, calming place to hang out while we talk about and do various art. That's why I was so excited about my community art day, and why I think I'm going to make that a monthly thing. Because I want a welcoming, soothing, affirming place for folks to talk about and practice art. All kinds of art. Oh gracious. I'm just getting purple everywhere. I guess that's the stage we're at here. Someday I really do need to find a way to clip a microphone to the model itself so that you folks get this sort of ASMR soothing brushing noises. As I'm applying the paint. Particularly with models like this that have big, wide, flat spaces. I'm certain some folks would enjoy the ASMR of the brushing on the model. Sort of the maybe. Let's try this. Mute before I do this. Alright, chat. Tell me how this sounds. Turned it way up, so I'm not going to talk very loudly. Were you guys getting the brushing noise there? Oop. that. I'm back. So, how was soothing ASMR brush sound time? I don't know if that worked. I'll have to go back and check in the VOD. See in the clips if that actually came out sounding the way I imagine it sounds. Almost done with this. So I've got his arms and legs done for the most part. Working on the wings, obviously. His face done. I think I've got most of his chest done. There's some areas that are just obscured by his beard, so it doesn't really matter if they're done or not. I love this sculpt. I feel like there's a lot of different ways you could choose to paint it. I feel like it would be kind of fun to do a variety of greens, because his beard has a sort of ropey look to it. I feel like that could be kind of fun to paint it as if it was a mossy beard, sort of entish feel. The wings obviously are just an open canvas and invite all sorts of creativity. You know I'm a fan of that. You may recall that the official GW paint scheme for him is very bland. It's all grays with some red highlights. Obviously, I went a little more colorful. But I love the potential for creativity and variety. I'm always a fan of seeing interesting ways to paint models. I mean, I do appreciate some of the folks who make an effort to make their models look precisely like the boxes or the books. And that takes a degree of skill, obviously, to emulate the professional painters that Games Workshop hires to do their display paint jobs. But I also love seeing interesting, unusual, creative paint jobs as well. There's a lot of variety in how things are done, and I love that. done with the purple. Boy, there was a lot of it, wasn't there, chat? These are some very purple folks that I've made. They have a lot, like I said earlier, a lot of surface area to cover. Almost done with the purple, with like 20 minutes left to go. So we'll have time to do some work on horns and fangs and talons after all. Cool. We are on schedule, chat. I can complete these 3 this week, and I can dedicate next week to Raptorix. It's going to be such a pleasure to get back to the Raptorix. Hopefully, I can make the second 3 Raptorix look as good as the first 3. Certainly once I've done it once, right, I should know how I did it. I should be able to replicate it. So hopefully we'll get as good a result on the second set of Raptorix. And then we'll be done with all the minis in this Warcry demo. Oh my goodness. Just so many of them. Alright, done with purple. Now, time for white. And what we're using for white, as I said way back at the beginning of this, is the deck tan. It's not quite white, it's a little off-white, a little lighter. But that's very intentional, because one of the first things I learned about doing white when I was working on my Tau is you don't paint white areas white, because then you've got no way to lighten them up from that. You paint them a light blue or something, and then you can add washes and highlights and give them some character. So we're using this deck tan, which is a very slightly grayish bluish white. I'm realizing now I should probably start on one of the other figures so that this fellow can finish drying. Let's put this aside. Go back to the first figure I painted today. Okay. Working on horns, teeth, claws, all that sort of stuff. Going in this off-white, bluish deck tan. Cat hair, where'd that come from? Trying to do a relatively thin coat here, because I want to leave the texture visible when I get into doing a wash. Oops. Painted his ear a little bit. That's fine. White. I want to leave purple. Sort of tiny detail that only I care about. Perfect. A little tricky here. I'm trying to paint the back side of this horn without painting the inside of his wing. They're very near to each other here. That'll do. Yeah. Is there. Probably invisible to you folks. You see it there on my thumbnail? Right there. Gives me teeths. Big toothy grin. Yeah. Perfect. His beard. Excellent. Making progress. Sphere Song, you did make it for the end of the stream. Welcome. Welcome back, I should say. Yeah, I have finished putting a bunch of purple on 3 of these Furies. And now I'm doing some white on beards and fangs and talons and such. Just doing base coats today, so that tomorrow I can start work on the wings, because they're going to be quite dramatic. I think the stream went pretty well. I mean, I think I've made some progress on these folks. At one point I clipped my microphone onto one of the models and tried to do some ASMR. I don't know if it worked, and I have to check the VOD to see how it sounds. But no major disasters like the infamous wash disaster of last week, when I poured blue wash all over my workspace. Just a slow, steady, productive stream today. Which was sort of my objective. Trying to get these folks ready so that I can do the more detailed work the rest of this week. I was telling Lobster, I feel a little bad because there's a lot of monotony involved in this particular stage of the painting. Just getting all these base coats done takes a bit of time, obviously, and the end results aren't as thrilling as some of the other streams that I get to do later in the week when we're doing all the cool details. But you need to do your base job. You need to get the monotony out of the way before you can do the exciting stuff. And it's nice to have you folks hanging out with me while I do it. Honestly, can't remember what I did with the other Furies. If I left the tip of the tail white as if it was bony, or if I did the pink metallic on the tip of the tail. I think I tried both ways, but ultimately decided on a bone tip. We'll take a look at that tomorrow when we're starting to do other touch-ups and details. How's your day been so far, Sphere Song? You said you had a work meeting or something to do? I hope it was productive. I know from experience that work meetings can sometimes be frustrating and less than useful. Sometimes they're necessary. Get everybody on the same page. But I think we've all been in work meetings that could have been an email. Alright, so Sphere Song. We had an awesome D&D session yesterday. I'm playing a warlock as a small child character with an elder elemental riding along in the back of her head due to a spell plague mishap. Fascinating. We were set up to fight a troll overlord, and I tried to talk it into giving me a snack when he said something that offended the cleric. She went all murdery and ruined my chance at snacks, so my character threw a hissy fit mid-combat. Sure, kids will have temper tantrums if they don't get a snack. Sounds like a fun RP. Not sure I could RP a child. I don't remember what it was like to be a child. I don't spend an awful lot of time with children. I guess, really, you'd be role-playing an archetype of a child. Sort of a rough approximation of a child. Nope, too much paint. That's not what I meant to do there. Do I spend a lot of time with clerics and elementals? Well, obviously. I don't know, I guess it's easier to get in the headspace of something that thinks in a fairly rational, intelligent manner, and I'm not convinced that children do that. They're much more in the moment. Which I guess, that would be the challenge, is to play it that way. Maybe children are elementals. Yes, I think they are. Okay, done with all the white parts of that model. Okay. Sounds like Amanda is home for her lunch break, so I should probably wrap things up pretty soon. I can finish the rest of these Fangs and Talons tomorrow. Maybe I'll do a little bit more work on this. Amanda is a creature of elemental badass. Well, you're not wrong. Do the horns on this figure, I think. And then I think I'm gonna call it a day for today. Go have some lunch with my wife and our cat. And I will be back tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Eastern to continue the sort of white highlights on these, and then we'll start working on the wings, which obviously is going to be time consuming, but hopefully rewarding. I'm going to try and do something similar to what I did with the wings on the first three. You did some research on developmental milestones. I remember vaguely some of that stuff. Okay, one more horn, and then I'm going to call it a day. And of course I will say, as always, thank you to you folks in chat who joined me, hung out with me. Thank you, Sphere Song, and Lobster of Revenge, and Clown Gown, and anybody else who's lurking or watching the VOD or watching the YouTube archive. As always, it is the knowledge that you folks are there keeping me company that keeps me going. It helps me to get this work done. I would not be getting any painting done whatsoever if it was purely up to me and if I didn't have you folks to motivate me. So thank you, everybody. We're making a little progress on these folks. Eventually we'll be done with all the figures in this Warcry set. It's taken me a while, but we're getting there. And that's a very good feeling. There, and I put this fellow aside. Productive day. Let's take a look. So we have this figure here, the crouching one, that we got all the white and purple done on. This figure here, the tall one, where we got all the purple and his horns. And the third one here, one is sort of climbing that plinth. So we made a lot of progress, pretty much on schedule, I believe. Tomorrow we will finish the white portions, we'll work on their daggers, work on their backs, and we'll start work on their wings. So, yeah, making progress. Trying to keep on schedule with these folks, and hopefully we'll get them done this week. So, thank you so much for joining me, folks. It was a fun and productive day, and now I have to get ready for the rest of my day. And I will see you perhaps tonight in Amanda's stream. She will be reading another chapter, or perhaps two, from The Grey King by Susan Cooper. And then I will see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. when I will be continuing to work on these three Furies. So, thank you for joining me, everybody. Be excellent to each other, and enjoy whatever art it is you choose to do. I'll see you soon. Have a great day.